first of all, thanks for coming tonight. I'm very, very happy, excited to be for the first time in LA, knowing so many amazing people living here, based here, working here on film, friends, and I want to thank especially Mark for this incredible invitation, and Becca, who is not here unfortunately, but both has been amazing to just thank you. And Adam also as well, and Kim there. I'm very, very excited. I knew about this place for a long time, to be very unique, and I can see. So yeah, thank you very much for coming. About the program for tonight, I want to just say a couple of few things, not too much, maybe just we can talk later after the screening. The first one I want to say is about the first film in the program called Chronogram of Inexistent Time. It's a film that was shot on 35 millimeter still camera. This was the date of the film there is 2008, but this started in early 2000, even like 99, I would say. And at the time I was studying visual arts in Chile. That's where I was born and raised, and I moved later in 2006 to Montreal, and I started an MFA in cinema and film production. So before that I had no training, just interest in moving image, and I was much concerned about the idea of philosophically about like a still image and moving image and the space in between and what it means and what it does create. I was mostly doing installation work. So this film Chronogram, it's I would say one component of 3 different installations that happened in early 2000, then 2005, and later in 2008. 2 of those installations were sculptures that I made that were projectors, basically, or intended to be projectors. They were most of them transparent, like basically revealing the mechanism of the projector. And the film that we will see, I mean the actual film strips, were moving through space into these mechanisms. So it's part of like a long, extensive research. The first installation was called "A Sphere Whose Center is Everywhere," and the other installation was called "Milimetraje," which refers to, this time, like millimeters, the notion of something very carefully put together. And the last installation was Chronogram of Inexistent Time, which existed in 2 different format maybe, or expressions. One as a single tunnel, and another one as a triple projection with handmade 24 or around 27 handmade screens of different shapes installed in space. That was shown in Montreal and in Toronto and in Winnipeg. I think like that's about a little bit about to give a context to that work, that it was sort of the window to me to get into filmmaking. Until then I had no idea about Super 8 and not much about 16. I've never held a Rolex, I never had a Super 8 camera. And that's sort of my transition from Chile to Montreal, and then started working with film, hand processing for the first time as well. My work all throughout has been on Ektachrome, so I'm just recently transitioning to other type of film stocks and learning different ways of making films as well, being challenged in a different way as well by just changing, not the medium, but how we call it, the film stock.
It's sort of a medium of its own.
It's sort of a medium, yeah. It's sort of a medium. So yeah, we can talk about it later, other things or questions. And there is another film that I want to talk that is the last one. So I'm talking about the first one, the last one. The last one is not in the program. It's called Altiplano. It is the name of a region in the north of Chile, north of Argentina, south of Bolivia, and south of Peru. So it's a whole region, very spectacular. and unique in terms of culture, in terms of landscape that exists above 8,000, 12,000 feet above the sea level. So it was shot there, and it's not announced in the program because it's still in progress film that will be quite soon finished and printed on 35 millimeter. So yeah, so I think we're gonna start.
Awesome. So now, those of you that hadn't seen Malena's work before, you can see why we were so excited to bring her, because that was totally amazing. That was really, really beautiful. It's funny, just last weekend we had a big Brackage retrospective happen at UCLA, and we did a show here. And at some point the question came up about abstraction. And Brackage historically didn't like the word abstraction in relation to his painted films, because abstract is a relational term, something is abstracted from something figurative. But I feel like what you're doing does have a lot to do with abstraction, and working with very solid and very identifiable elements, and then transforming them in various ways to create some other kind of phenomenological abstracted experience. And I'm wondering if is that a key interest of yours, or would you agree with that characterization?
Yeah, I mean, though I agree with Brackage. Yeah, I think it's we tend to separate the idea or the realm of abstraction from figuration, and have this two worlds, or thinking of abstraction relating to something known, that we can relate, or familiar. And I think, to me, maybe abstraction has to do more with a unique universe in itself. But there is a starting point, I guess. There's something that it travels in time and space as well. So there is a place or something, or some kind of maybe mood, or there's something where, I guess there is a sense of a space. I mean, just thinking the idea of trance as well. It's trance doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't fall, from the sky. It comes from Earth. It's something generated somehow. It's an energy. I guess it's something that is triggered by emotions or a sensorial experience. The idea of color, not the idea, the experience of color can trigger it, a state of abstraction. So I think it has to do more with an experience itself, and how do we relate to that. It can be in different forms. It can be rational, it can be some maybe theoretical, or some other would be a sensorial, more physical or textile, or the senses of smell or vision. And this can be in the form of a state of awareness, whether it's through dreams, or yesterday, not 2 days ago, you were talking about dreams. So this sense of being aware while dreaming, or walking life too. It's like a dream, daydreaming. So definitely, I think maybe thinking the idea of abstraction as just something that is that is abstracted from. Abstraction as an expression of abstracting something from. I think it just reduces maybe the experience of abstraction itself.
Well, and your work is so much about the being aware of experience, and our visual experience, and subjective experience too, I think, because I feel like in watching your films we're aware of you're making both very, very careful, but also I feel some spontaneous choices in what you're doing with the camera or the lens or the exposure. And then in some of the films you've then done some rephotography, optical printing. And there's like a further set of choices which might be both very, very carefully worked out, but also maybe a little bit improvisational. And it seems to me there's such like confidence and control in the work, but it feels also so free and so exploratory and intuitive. And so I'm wondering, with your process, is it a mix of the very thought out and the very intuitive? And are you improvising a lot? Is it?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of both. I think there is some sense of control, but I mean, it's mostly like I was not trained as a filmmaker, technically speaking. So I think that gave me some kind of freedom about embracing what maybe a trained filmmaker will think is a mistake, technically speaking. So, for instance, underexposure or overexposure is something that fascinates me. I never saw it as something that it would be like, oh, my footage is too dark or my footage is too bright. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends, in the context. Therefore, when filming, I'm not as, technical, and the process. All the contraries, like I said, some kind of like parameters, technically speaking, in terms of exposure. But I mean, Lunar Almanac is just like, and it was such a, the one with the moon, like, well, the moon, there are many, but the one that is singly focused on the moon. That one was very exhaustive evenings of filming. It's like 5,000 photographs for 4 minutes, and it wasn't thought that way. It just became that way. So I wouldn't be like measuring light, or so there is a sense of like just unleashing whatever has to happen, and there's a lot of superimposition as well, which I'm very interested in, and the sense of in-camera editing. So I have I just recall the memory of it, or the sensation that I had when I filmed something, but I would take notes, but I will never be like precise.
Super mathematical.
No, it's like
okay.
And usually, we'll start with the notes, and at some point, I'm gonna start filming. I think like the act of filming, that when I got the best results out of, because most of the footage, most of it is in editing. It's editing in camera. The cuts that you see is just like basically putting together those segments, or maybe just taking out, removing a small portion because it got scratched, or
well, like Anagrams, the fireworks film, are there any cuts in that?
No.
Yeah, I did, because we saw the original there,
yeah.
like, so, which is part of why it's so gorgeous. But also, I'm listening, I can hear every splice as it goes through the projector, and I didn't hear anything. Oh my God, there are no cuts in this film.
Yeah, there's no
cuts. It's all done in the camera. Yeah.
All in the camera, and the case of Lunar Almanac is, I think it's 5 sections. Edited in camera, and 5 section meaning because it was shot throughout the year, so I will have like 30 feet of ectachrom in the camera. I will shoot that, I will take it out, we'll process, then I will put another roll. I will shoot maybe like 50 feet, and then we'll cut, and so it basically is 4 segments, and we'll edit it in camera, and I edited basically the segments in the light table, just looking at the sequence of the moon, and then Rhythm Trail is coming from, like, it's also in camera editing, and the splices are putting together segments from different rolls basically, but trying again to just sort of have this focus on a motive. Early explorations, I think, like it's sort of my first encounters with Super 8, and trying to understand a visual language, and how to approach what I was filming.
Well, then Morphologia, you made this right after Lunar Almanac?
Yeah.
Like sort of overlapping a little?
Yeah.
It's such a different film, because now you're working with manipulating the color more radically, and there's all this rephotography, and the superimposition, I'm imagining, is happening in the optical printing more? Like there's more manipulation after the fact.
There is
what I mean.
back. And that,
this is a pretty different approach to the medium.
Yeah.
And then to then relate that also to Altiplano, it seems like that's again, it's a mix of those approaches. But I'm wondering if you could talk about how you've incorporated these ideas into your process, which is so oriented around in camera, like shooting in the camera, and then now to doing more manipulation after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the case of Morfología, well, this is it's a film that gathered original footage shot in different locations in the States and in Canada, I think, as well. Some of it shot actually with Daichi Saito. And yeah, it was a sort of series of experiments we were making at that time with hand processing and in the context of Robert Schaller's Institute, Analog Institute, I think it's called, in Boulder, Colorado. A fantastic place, magical. So that was back in 2007, let's say, and that footage was around. As I mentioned, it influenced a bit trees of syntax of Daichi, and it sort of it came into, I think it was a footage that sort of went through different stages, I guess, because it was part of an installation at some point, and eventually, well, in between, a little bit before Lunar Almanac, I was collaborating with a musician doing this tours, doing film performance, which was my first encounter with music as well, and film, and that was mostly optical printing job, because it's I wouldn't be doing loops with original camera footage, So I think it has an influence from that experience. It was 3 years working with the Jerusalem in My Heart music project originally from Montreal and Lebanon. So I think I did a very similar process because again I wouldn't pack the material really studying what it was falling together and I was editing in the camera as well. So the cuts that are right now on that film, it's mostly because I was never convinced of finishing that work.
So you've rearranged it a few times.
Yeah, I took some sections, that work I think started in 2013, producing the material, then in 2015 I think I did the first cut. I wasn't convinced, then I let it sit for a couple of years, and finally I think I made the last cut, I think. And and I think it has some connection with Altiplano, but I don't know. I mean, it not consciously at all. I'm starting to realize by looking at the films together. And it was actually before, for this program, I had Lunar Almanac before Altiplano. And it was a friend who actually said no, you should put Morfología there. There is some kind of connection. I'm I couldn't make that connection. So I think it will come at some point.
Well, there's a way in which you transform the landscape in Altiplano, which sometimes makes it quite alien. And it's again, I have the feeling watching it of you're giving the landscape a subjectivity, which otherwise it might not have, through this manipulation of the image. This, we have this sense of experiencing it as a space that's alive and that's transforming, and maybe has different time periods collapse together, and it's just really creating this living energy out of the space. And I wonder, could you talk about that project at all? Because this is an unusual project for you too.
Yeah, I mean, I think this project started in. I think it started in 2014 when I was writing a big proposal for the first time in Spanish in a long time. In the middle of winter, which is, you cannot imagine that. If you're used to this, you don't know what it is. So I'm in Montreal, very depressed in the winter, and And in writing this project, after years of just writing in English, and it was very liberating actually to just like flow my ideas in Spanish. And I started to write about this place in the north of Argentina, which is called Valles Calchaquías. And this place is where my family come from originally. So I was talking about that place, and also the geysers of Statio, which are on the Chilean side, which is Statio means the grandfather that cried. And at that time there were a lot of geothermic, I say?
Sure.
Sure. Sort of research in that area, which made this geyser to explode, and it was like 100 meters column of geyser, of like water and vapor coming out. So I was like reading about this, and and all what is happening in terms of the natural resources in Chile and Argentina, and this place where my family came from originally, which is native land, and I really wanted to go there. It's like I've never been there. My family immigrated from Argentina. It's a long story, It's like a family story. So I meet Una Mosna in 2015, I think.
And Una runs Media City Film Festival in Windsor, which is a really
fantastic
excellent festival.
Yeah, it's coming in November.
Yeah, in early November. You should check it out. It's really one of
a niche
the great
cinema.
North American film festivals.
And it's very fun. I mean, it's Windsor, but it's really fun. You see, Windsor, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, I meet her, and she wanted to go to South America and to travel. And somehow, it was very rare to find someone in Canada who knew about, musicians and poets from Chile and Argentina. So I was like mesmerized, And we put together ideas, and she finally wrote this grant. She had this idea of like, why we don't go down and film some stuff, and let's bring other filmmakers. So other filmmakers that came with us was Daichi Saito and John Price. Daichi was recently here, and John Price is originally from
John Price will eventually bring to LA.
Oh, yeah,
he's a fantastic filmmaker.
He's he's incredible too. So we went there, and basically each of us made a individual project. So that's sort of the context, the history of how something gets born.
It's kind of like an accidental commission.
Yeah, it is. It is. So.
Should see. Does anybody have any questions
any comments
at all? We've just been having a chat. Amy.
The color is amazing, but I don't understand. Were we actually looking at originals?
Yeah.
And yet these have shown at other points in history? I don't understand by what miracle. There's like no transport marks on any of them. But I beg you to please, I don't know how you're going to print this color on anything that exists. And digital can't cut it. But there's got to be a way to make prints of these. Because this miracle of being able to see something that looks pristine like this, every projection is terrible. It's a miracle that there's been even more than one projection of this, and we're not seeing any marks on it. So please save these movies, in their form. Even if you only show, if you can continue to show the originals, at least back them up, as they say, digitally with something. I don't know how you print digital. After Chrome color now, but as close as you can get.
This is partly why. You have like Lunar Almanac is shown all around the world,
Yeah.
and beneath your skin you have it's a print from, and that's actually blown up from Super 8. But some of the other ones, it's true.
Yes,
it's a rare treat to be able to see them like this, so we were just talking about you're going to make an internegative of Morphologia. So at least there might be prints of that, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely I'm making an internet of Morphologia and stopping showing except for situations. But trying to keep the original, and Lunar Almanac, the original Ektachromos, I keep it separately, and it's incredible, like still the differences. No, we're just talking about the reds. No, it's like the red in Ektachrome is so unique, and Lunar Almanac has a lot of red, and it doesn't transfer in the print. So the print I was very, very happy with the result. And then and then I have digital of most of them. Yeah, I would say all of them, and Altiplano mixes 3 different stocks. It's Ektachrome, negative for the first time, like shooting in negative, and print stock as well. That all the second section I self-taught how to use a contact printer at the double negative studio and print on color. And it was quite fun actually, but also challenging. So all the positive will remain as such, and it's all put together in digital, and I will be printing on 35 actually. Yeah, thanks to the support of the National Film Board of Canada.
National Film Board of Canada, that's right.
Yeah, which is great actually. Yeah, it's really great. So, yeah.
Any other questions? I have to ask about so what's up with the moon? You're pretty into the moon.
Yeah, I mean, that was...
but it's a powerful image, right? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, the first time it appeared is when we saw the Super 8. That was a moon in the south of Chile. And that was the first time. And it was like pure, casual moment. I was basically traveling. I was near a lake, beautiful lake, and then this incredible moon, and I was with my Super 8, I filmed that, and I had no idea what I was going to see, It's like I was mesmerized when I saw this result, and then just like came back in almost every single film, and I think like there is some trajectory there. I don't know if it will continue, or for Altiplano, I was like almost like, oh, again the moon. But it was like this incredible rare like event that happens like in hundreds of years, where there is this like lunar eclipse that happened in September 2016. So it's like, I'm sorry. It's like, I'm too good. So
you'd be crazy not to film it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew about it, I knew it was, we were going to be in the south, and, south in Chile, but in the north, so, yeah, I definitely filmed it. I put it aside for, like, a long period while I was editing, but, yeah, definitely, it was integrated, yeah. And also, like, in the case of Altiplano, it follows the same in-camera editing. I mean, we see the structure basically is based on roles and places that I travel, that we went. So I try to mostly look at when I was working on digital, which was the first time I was doing that. I was trying to observe the footage from the viewpoint of those moments that were where that kind of trance happen, while you're filming, where you even know I know when I'm filming, when the footage is gonna be good, basically, or like that this is gonna work, or that this is something that is gonna fascinate me, or that I feel that is translating the imagery that I have in my brain, and so it's all basically superimposing the camera in those locations.
So in Altiplano, everything was done in film, and it's just a editorial assembly that's done in digital? Like, did you do any further manipulation of the image in digital?
No, there is nothing. There is no like a digital effect applied to.
Were you tempted at all?
No. No, because I mean, like those the color temperature that we see in the atmosphere that was created on film. No, it's not actually what I was experiencing there. I was more like all this like mixture of tunnels, no, where I'm like observing this, filming, rewinding, refilming, and producing, different times during the day. So producing this kind of like merging daylight and night is something that also goes throughout the different works. No, it's like this idea of like kind of like architecture of the night or something like that. So like many of the films also like embrace the darkness, or the absence, which is not absence. No, it's like to talk about silence. No, and so there is like a kind of, I think like a relationship, or I don't know. No, I don't think that correlation, but something that I will put in parallel the black or the darkness with silence, which is like all the films. This is the first film I'm working with sound. So
I think unless anybody has any final question, that's a really nice way to end, actually.
Cheers for the projectors.
Yeah.
That was flawless.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
No
Thank
problem.
you very much.
Two of you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Andrew did the digital, I did the film.
Yes.
And please join us tomorrow night here, same time, right? 8 o'clock.
Yeah. It's something little about tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's not 47 minutes.
Sorry, no, because we talked at various times about the length and it was changing.
So he said, something between 20 and 30. There's going to be a lot of improvisation on the performance, I think. Kind of like what we were talking about, this in-camera editing exercise or moment trance. It's all original as well. All original
camera original
camera original
footage,
footage on 16 and Super 8.
Sound?
No sound.
No, but I mean you have separate sounds, right?
Yeah, there is a separate sound, which is, we're gonna live with it. But there's gonna be sound as well.
Yeah.
So and then after we're gonna see 3 incredible films.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to join
It'll be
us
really
tomorrow.
fantastic tomorrow. So please join us.